this time, enterprise-level business solutions have been siloed with little interoperability or integration. ERP didn't talk to service and repair, marketing didn't integrate with sales, and so on. This was not just an inconvenience, but a real pain that produced a lot of workarounds, redundant data entry, spreadsheets that had to be shared, lots of inefficiencies. Microsoft Dynamics 365 changes all that, providing one connected platform for managing all of your internal and customer-facing processes. Not only that, but you have the freedom and the flexibility to deploy just the pieces and parts that you need. Dynamics 365 is very process-friendly. You don't have to adapt to it. The system is configured to support and facilitate your specific way of doing business. With Microsoft Azure, Internet of Things, and Cortana Intelligence built in, workers can be guided to make the best decisions and take the right actions at the right time. Extensibility also built in, so you don't have to worry about outgrowing your system or your investment. So think about it: lead nurture, sales and contracting, project management, service scheduling and dispatch, installation, repair, inventory management, and finance, all under one roof. Here you see all the processes and workloads you can manage with Dynamics 365. Again, we're talking one unified platform for managing your business. Now let's take a look at some of the areas that we'll touch upon in today's webinar. The basics like accounts, contacts, and so on, navigation, sales functionality, marketing, lead capture, visualization, service, finance, and so on. So at this time, I am going to turn the presentation over to my colleague, Ken. This will take just a few seconds.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. As Mark mentioned, my name is Ken Farmer. I'm the president of Dyne 365 Pros. I've actually been involved in the Microsoft channel and with what originally was the Dynamics CRM program and platform since the beginning. So I was part of the beta team back in 2001 with release for version 1 in 2002. The product has seen quite a bit of growth, quite a bit of changes as we've moved along, and truly become a full platform, living in the cloud or in your data center, whichever your preference is. Microsoft is actually pushing the cloud forward. They have made this their mission in all of their business apps, their enterprise apps, and obviously with all the advertising you see out there about the Microsoft cloud, I think we've all seen plenty of their ads. That's their push, and that's really where we live and play every day is in that Microsoft cloud. So today, as Mark mentioned, Dynamics 365 now encompasses so much, and the first thing I want to get across to everybody is that Dynamics 365 is very, very deep and very, very broad in the functionality that it contains. It brings together a series of apps, as Mark mentioned, or if you think of it as modules within a enterprise level application. We're going to focus, and Microsoft kind of is getting to the point now where, and you'll hear this more and more over the next 6 to 12 months probably, but they're taking the full app set of Dynamics 365 and breaking it into two major areas. So you've got customer engagement apps, which is the sales, marketing, customer service, project service, field service level apps. And then you've got unified operations, and that encompasses the ERP side of the house, right? So you've got Dynamics 365 for operations, which is the Dynamics AX product in the cloud. And you've got a business level, SMB level as well, called Dynamics 365 Financials, but that's a little bit different. That's not something that we'll be covering today. So really today we're focusing on the customer engagement side of the house, and we'll talk to some of the integrations, some of the links, some of the native stuff that happens between customer engagement and unified operations. So today, as we walk through this, and as Mark said, we have a short amount of time to cover quite a bit of ground. So we're going to focus on sort of the 50,000 foot view of Dynamics 365. And then we've got other webinars coming up over the next several months that will dive deep into each one of the functional areas, each one of the apps, and talk at a much deeper level of the process, the workflows, the workloads that Dynamics 365 can handle. So today I want to show you just kind of the overall look and feel of Dynamics 365 and the platform. So as you can see here, we're in Dynamics 365. We also have, we're in the sales module right now. Now if I open this up, one thing I want to caution you is that the login that we're using here for the demo is an administrative level login, which means we see everything. As you can imagine, if your users were to wake up one morning and pop this open, you know, as you're just starting to implement Dynamics 365, they're going to be overwhelmed. They may have a marketing role, but you don't want them to see all of this. They may have a customer service role. So the point of an implementation is really to get down to the role level within your organization and provide them with an experience that makes sense for them. Process and user adoption are the two overriding reasons that you get a successful implementation. Without those two things, without the proper process, without the proper buy-in with management, you just don't get the user adoption. So while we see here all of this, these different areas and pieces and parts and pieces of functionality in our demo today, you need to understand that if I'm a sales user, I can go to just the sales app by itself, and all I'm going to see is just what I need for my job. And users, the functions inside of CRM, the views that they've got, the interface that they use really just breaks down into what they need for their job. And we can even, through configuration, reduce this down into a much more granular level. You bring in some interns that are just going to do inside sales or cold calls or lead generation. We break this into one sales tile or marketing tile and one or two of these options. They get leads and they get the ability perhaps to convert those into opportunities. So that's the first thing about Dynamics CRM, or Dynamics 365. Sorry, I've been doing this for so long. I know I'll mess up the words. The name here one or two more times today. You have the ability to present your users with a set of apps and a set of screens and a set of forms and some data points that are just relevant to what they do, even though they play a part in the grander scheme of cross-department communication, as well as feeding into reports and metrics and KPIs and stuff that the rest of the organization uses. You see here that we've got here Dynamics 365 for field service. You've got the project service automation piece, and then of course customer service as well as sales and marketing. So we're just going to go back here to our overall view. So please just understand, I wanted to explain about the clutter, because this is an administrative level where we can quickly move up to where we need to go to show through the process, okay? So Dynamics 365, we're in the sales module, as you can see. You have the ability, the concept, of course, of accounts and contacts. You can change any of this to your nomenclature. So within your organization, within your culture, they may not be called accounts. They may be called customers. They may be called partners. They may be called something else that makes sense for you. Within our construct, you can easily change that. We can change that to flow properly and give your users the proper view and the proper nomenclature that they're used to seeing, right? So inside of sales, of course, we have what we call the core entities or record types: accounts, contacts, leads, and opportunities. That kind of starts your sales process and truly takes you from a a lead to cash process where you can walk it through, you can qualify leads, you can convert them into opportunities, you can team sell against those opportunities if you need to. And we'll fly through some of this pretty quickly, but you'll get an opportunity to see each one of those record types. You also may have some specific collateral that's part of your process, or your sales team is generating quotes and orders, and everything else is flowing into, of course, invoices at the other end of this as your finance department is collecting money and truly getting the bills paid, right? As part of what's going on in sales and marketing, you have the ability to segment in multiple different ways all of your leads and your contact records, creating campaigns, quick campaigns in a lot of different ways. We also have the concept of goals, setting up specific multi-level goals within your organization. A goal can really truly be put against any numeric value. How many phone calls have been made over a period of time by a specific individual or a group of individuals? Have we met our sales numbers? Have we met specific product sales numbers? So you're rolling out a new product, you come out with a new campaign to focus purely on that product. You want to push that forward, you set some goals around it. And then, of course, as you would expect, all kinds of alerts and reports and all of that. So that's sales. Let's just jump over. We'll see a little bit more in marketing in terms of what we talked about, campaigns. You notice here that in sales we have quotes, orders, we have products, we have areas that are specific to the sales group, whereas in marketing we really don't. We focus on the actual marketing, the campaigns, products you may be marketing against, and of course the leads that are being generated from your marketing activities. As we move through the organization, you have project service. Project service brings a whole nother level of management that you may need within your organization. You may want to do some specific cost accounting type projects, and you may want to set your opportunities up so that there's a pure cost associated to that opportunity, so you can start looking at some of your gross profit margin numbers as you walk it through. With project service, you're using the concept of regular Gantt charts and starting out with a template for specific kinds of projects. If you're in that space, project service automation is really a key fit for consulting organizations perhaps, or companies that are doing project-based work, whether it's billable or not, and it really gives you the ability to control that really well. And then finally, field service, and we're going to start walking through these forms and the process here momentarily, but I wanted to point out with field service, these are obviously very specific to types of companies and industries, and that's part of the concept that Mark talked about around just license what you need. Use what you need within the application. If you buy a full plan license, which if you need more than one application for an individual, you need to get them a plan license. But the plan license gives you options that you may not need, so that's fine. Just because you have them doesn't mean you have to use them at that point. But field service is very specific. That HVAC company that's managing a fleet of trucks in the field with their on-site folks and repairs and installs and that kind of thing. So there is a specific webinar for that if you have an interest in both project service and field service. There's a webinar for each to really dive into that functionality. It's tough to put either one of those into an hour, but we're going to give you the concepts and walk you through how all of that works in terms of delivery and managing your people in the field and resource scheduling and all those fun kind of things. So we're going to go back to sales, and we're going to just start walking through some of the tools and really kind of give you an impression of what happens with sales and leads. Okay, so I'm going to start with dashboards. It's always great to understand where you are with your data. Some of the key challenges in an implementation really are putting your data into the system in a way that makes sense for consumption and management of that data. So within Dynamics 365, you have a series of out-of-the-box dashboards, which all of these are. And then you have the ability, as you can see up here, to create brand new dashboards. So anything that's a data point within your system can be displayed graphically. In this case, and this is demo data in our system here, and we're walking through the different, this would be the practice management dashboard in terms of resources, utilizations, month over month sales versus utilization or costs. We also have the ability, if we go down and we look at, say, the sales dashboard, and some of these might be empty only because we don't have demo data to reflect that. But for instance, this is a standard sales dashboard where your salesperson is going to come in. You see it talks about my activities, my open opportunities, my open leads. These are concepts of that allow us to build a single dashboard or utilize an existing out-of-the-box dashboard, but do it for different things. I can look at my activities, or I can go down and look at the activities in any other construct way that I want to, any other queries that have been built. I can look at my open opportunities, or I can look at all open opportunities, whatever my permission level as a user allows me to do. We have the ability to put lists, as you can see here, and these are all highlighted, so I can jump straight to this opportunity, or I can jump straight to this task from here. I can look at specific accounts. These are the accounts that I own as a salesperson, perhaps, and I can go in and drill into those. And then, of course, we have things like pipeline, open opportunities, and each one of these charts and lists is interactive. I can go ahead and pop this up to enlarge it if there's quite a bit of information there. I can look at the underlying data that's comprising that chart. So for instance, this is a My Open Opportunities sales pipeline. So I can jump in and look at the actual opportunities that represent, in this case, in this demo data, of course, these two stages of the process, right? And you can see as I'm hovering over a lot of this that we're getting tooltips, we're getting a little bit deeper level of information. And then, of course, with these lists, you have the ability to just search for specific records. From the dashboard level, and we can look at a couple of different ones, the sales performance dashboard, unfortunately, this is goal progress, and there's not demo data in here to represent some of this stuff. So customer service level, field service, your practice management, as we talked about, even to the point where you get an organizational insights dashboard that truly feeds into who's using the system and who's not, and we don't unfortunately have time today to jump into that one. But from an administrative standpoint, from a user adoptability standpoint, it really gives you some great insights into what's going on. One of the reasons that you want to join some of these other webinars that we have coming up is the ability to go in and really dive deep into some of the AI, some of the artificial intelligence that Microsoft is adding into the system now. So you have the ability to really drill deep and get outside external level information fed into CRM that's going to tell you the things that you need to do your job, whether it's from somebody who's trying to convert a lead and you've got your insights about that lead, about that customer that are being fed in from either an external service called Inside View or some of the other mashups of data that are coming in to give you true information about these. So now we've moved on to leads. So throughout the system, you're going to see this construct. So let me just give you a quick navigation overview. We're in sales. We've now selected leads, so we're here. If we hit the drop down, we have our recently viewed stuff right here that we can grab from the lead level. Over to the side, we have our search, so we can start searching for data globally, not just at the lead level. If we want to just search at the lead level, we would do it here, right, where it says search for records. This is the area that gives us recently viewed. So if I click on that, as a user, I don't want to have to say, okay, I know I was working on a specific account yesterday, and then I don't want to have to go to sales, accounts, and then click into the accounts and then try and perform that same search. For instance, if I'm trying to search through thousands of accounts. I have the ability to go back just through here and look at my recent views of data, which are queries of data that I've that I've used in the past. or I can go in and start look at the recent records that I viewed, whether it was a dashboard or whether it was an account or perhaps a lead record. So all of these just continue to give you the most recent record. So as a user, I can quickly jump to where I need to go. And it just works out real well for me as a user. It's a faster, easier way to get to my data. Moving on here, we have what's called a quick create. So this, like I said, it's going to have a ton of information here because I'm an admin. But for a standard sales user, they may have they may be on a phone working on one account and a phone call comes in. They need to create a new lead from that phone call, or they need to create a phone call record. So without leaving what they're doing, the work that they're already in progress on, they can go ahead and create a quick phone call or email or appointment or whatever the case may be, get that information in CRM, hang up the phone, and then continue to move forward. So again, usability for your team becomes critical. And then last, we have our advanced find, which is the advanced query tool that we use to truly slice and dice the data multidimensionally to find different categories of data that fit certain criteria, whether it's leads that have been qualified over the last 3 days by our lead team or our inside team or whatever the case may be. The rest of this is getting down to some personal options, and then of course some help, some very contextual help, which works great for our users, and gives with this new latest version, we also have the ability to customize help. So oftentimes, the default standard help is okay for users, but they really want help with your internally created process. So it gives us the ability through an implementation to set up that contextual help that's specific to you and your processes and your information that your users may need to do their job on a day in and day out basis. And then once we move beyond that, we have just our contextual functions view. Functions driven. So creating a new lead. So this is all specific to what's happening in this area here, what's happening in this entity or record type that we happen to be in. Create a new lead. Delete leads, which, by the way, our general recommendation is around security is setting this up so users can't bulk delete, but that's a whole another soapbox. I won't get on that. Emailing links, run reports. So you can see this is a contextual area that changes based on where you are, and then of course moving on through the ellipses into the more commands, the ability to do various things that you might want to do here. Within all of this, we talked about the dashboards and charting at the dashboard level. Throughout the system, you also have the ability to, in this case, we talked about the chart pane, where do we want it? Well, it's set for the right-hand side. So I can always go over here to the right when I'm looking at a list like this. When I'm looking at a queried or filtered list, I can go ahead and pop the charts open and see the various charts that are created for, in this case, I'm in leads, leads by source campaign, and I can really sort of start seeing these and get the information that I'm trying to find easily and quickly, right? So I may want to say, hey, I just want to take a look at my trade show leads, and I can see that in this small data set we only have 3. Well, I can click on this part of the chart, and it's going to filter my view just to that information so that I can see all of the, in this case, leads that have to do, that came from, have a lead source of trade show. All right, click out of that, it goes back to our regular list. I can grab advertisements, and then if I chose to, I could even select fields within those records to try and do a little bit more sorting or graphical displays on, whether it's by owner, whether it's by name, field, topic, or any field that exists within the record types, whether they're exposed on the form or not, okay? All right, so these are leads. I'm gonna close that back up. Excuse me. So let's talk about how leads get in the system, right? Everybody works differently within their organizations. You may have leads coming in from a website, from a web form that you've got that in our world, in the Dynamics 365 world, that form that you may be getting today, somebody fills it out and hits submit on your website, it creates an email that goes to a specific person. That person then has to enter that lead manually into the system or put it on a spreadsheet so they can upload it later. We all know that's crazy, because the more time somebody has to touch a piece of data, the more opportunities there are for that data to be mistyped, entered incorrectly, duplicates to happen, all of those crazy things that gets to a point where users really start hating to use the system. In our world, in the Dynamics 365 world, you want that web form to go directly into CRM, and you have the option of setting that up to come in as a lead record, or in marketing campaigns for the system to say, hey, somebody just filled out this form and they just registered for our event. If they don't exist in our system today, we want to enter them as a lead. If they do exist in our system, say as a contact record, we want it to show that we don't want it to create a duplicate, but we want it to show that they've registered and that they actually are a contact in our system. So there's some real intelligence behind all of that going in. So that's one way is you've got the web forms. The other way is you may go to a trade show, you may purchase a list of leads or something along those lines, and you want to be able to import the data, right? You want to import it if it's a list that you get from an organization that you subscribe to. It's the same spreadsheet all the time. You can create a map for it, so that it knows you don't have to recreate the wheel every time you do this, right? This first name goes to this field, this last name goes to this field, so you've got a clear way to just say, import data, grab the template from, lead list company A, and boom, import these 1,000 leads that we just got, put some intelligence behind that import that says, hey, look for duplicates, and if there's a duplicate, reject it type thing. So there's some incredible ways to do that. And then lastly, I want to talk about one thing that happens quite a bit is through the use of emails, right? So I'm going to switch over. This is just Outlook web access through Office 365, and I want to spend just a couple minutes talking about the integration between Dynamics 365 and your Office 365. Today, most users are living in email, especially salespeople. They've got all kinds of communications happening back and forth. They've got perhaps phone calls, but there's quite a bit of email information that goes back and forth. You really want to try and capture that. And Dynamics 365, with their native integration to Office 365, allows you to do that. So this is just a sample email that I had Mark send to this account, just so that we can work with it. Now, Mark Avis, we're going to just consider him somebody that's interested, of course, in our product line. Hey, we met at the trade show. Call me and set up an appointment. So I get this email as a sales guy, and I could be sitting at my desk. I could be sitting at home on my deck. I could be coming out of a prospect meeting. It really doesn't matter. I'm just going to look at my email, right? So what I want to do is, I'm heading to another meeting, but I want to get this into CRM right now. Maybe I use a team selling concept, and I've got an inside team that would take this email and start working with it. So in a normal non-Dynamics 365 environment, my process may be to forward it to my inside team and say, hey, manually enter this into CRM and set up an appointment for me and start the process. Well, here I have the ability with Dynamics 365 and the native integration to Office 365 to go over, and even though just to let you know, I'm using the web version here, but the Outlook desktop client works basically exactly the same. So what you're going to see here is going to work the same way in the in the Outlook client. So I'm going to hit this Dynamics 365 button. It's going to pop open just a little pane on the side, and it's going to just double check the information it gets here. It's going to look for this email address. It's going to look for Mark, and it's going to come back and say, hey, this person is not in CRM. So what do you want to do? Well, I want to get this person in here. So I'm going to add this person, and you can see it starts with either a lead or a contact. Well, I want to add Mark as a lead. Because this is somebody obviously that we need to qualify and see. Just because he says that they want to look at something doesn't mean that I'm going to turn him into an opportunity right away. So I'm going to click on the lead button, and it's going to say, all right, great, give me a little bit more information. So I'm going to just say from trade show. And then if I know some of this other information, I'll put it on there. If I know Mark's title, I think he's a buyer for his company. And I'm not really sure of the company name, but maybe I do. Maybe I have his, so I see his cell phone numbers right here. So I'm going to just go ahead and populate that. So I can put in whatever I need to here. Now, if I'm at my desk and I actually want to start working with this record right away, I can click Open Record After Saving, or I can just save it and move on. What I want to point out is we have these two red asterisks by these two fields. These are the only mandatory fields that are needed, and these are dictated by Dynamics 365. So I can say, you know, hey, I want these in here. Minimum, I want the last name and the topic. Well, for me, we always are talking to the customer about making sure you get the email in there, making sure you get some sort of a phone contact. So we would make those probably mandatory. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And what it's going to do is it's going to go into CRM right now, Dynamics 365, and you can see the lead was created, and now this email is being tracked. And what that track means in Dynamics 365 is that if I go ahead and respond to this email, just because I've tracked it already and I've entered this in, it's taken a copy of this email, complete. If there had been attachments or whatever, it would grab those as well and put a copy of that record in Dynamics 365. One of the biggest challenges for salespeople and marketing people and customer service folks really is the sheer amount, the volume of information that comes to you through email, and you're doing a lot of cut and pasting, and you're trying to get that information into your system, and you know, you get some of it, you don't get other. But now that I've tracked this, and I reply back, and then he replies to me, and we go back and forth, maybe there's 3 or 4 emails in this thread, all of those emails now will automatically be put in as copies of emails to CRM. And once they're in CRM, Dynamics 365, as an email, as an activity, I can delete these in here. So I can delete all of the emails that I've tracked inside of my Outlook, but they still will exist in Dynamics 365. And they're there not just for me to see, but with the permissions that we can set up, they're there for your team to see. They're part of the historical record of activity and communication and engagement that you've got with your customers now, okay? So if I was to just jump over here real quick, and I'm gonna refresh my lead list, here's Mark Avis, and here's that lead that was generated, and I'm gonna go ahead and open up the Mark Avis record, and here's this lead that was generated. You can see here, it was generated here. If I grab the activities, here is that email that came through. So now here's the copy of the email that we were talking about. It started to populate the information that I've gathered. We've got the historical thread here that's going on with emails. And now I've got a Dynamics 365 record that I or my team can now start to interact with. You can see that it started the lead record with our default basic sales process flow, right? So this is called the business process flow ribbon. And this is where we can build multiple complex or easy processes to walk that record through. You can see here we're at the lead level, right? A lot of times you really don't care what record you're dealing with, you just know that you need to do something with it. So in this case, I'm going to start trying to qualify this, and I'm going to say, well, I found out his company is Dyn 365 Pros. They've got a website, and then I can populate address. I can, and it'll show the correct address on the map. I'll open up another record later. Here's that description that I put in. So we can start now collecting the information. And with the integration, with the AI integration, the artificial intelligence integration turned on, which I don't for today because I didn't want to get distracted and we only had a short period of time. You would see over here on the right-hand side all of the information that it's pulling from external sources that it can find on the company name, that it can find on Mark, and that's tied to his email, so that this information now is available to you without having to search the internet. Okay, so let's look at our process here for a second. Our process is a 4-stage process. You qualify the lead, up here you would qualify it, we'll do that in a second. It creates an opportunity, a contact record, and an account record if those don't exist already. And then there'll be additional information that you need to do here, and then once you do that, you move to the 3rd stage, which is the propose stage, and then hopefully you get through all the pieces and parts you need to do there, and then you then move it to the close stage. Now this can be done manually, stage by stage by stage, or it can be triggered by completing these items within the process itself. So this process flow and the complexity and the branching and the workflow engine and the business process flow engine that exists is very, very granular, and I could, again, spend an hour on that by itself. So we'll kind of just look at a couple things here and move on. So in this case, these are the things that I need to do, or an inside person needs to do to advance this and qualify this lead. Is this an existing contact? So if I know that Mark Avis exists, or we can run a search, because sometimes you'll have a lead come in, but they already exist. It's a lead for an existing customer. You tie it to the contact here. You tie it to the Mark Avis contact here. Same thing with account. Does Dine 365 Pros exist in our system? You can do a quick search for it. If it doesn't exist, it doesn't exist. What's their process? So after my first conversation with him, this is going to be an individual purchase process. What's their time frame? He's telling me this quarter, but you never know. Maybe that's going to end up being next quarter. Do I have a budget number yet? Maybe I do, maybe I don't. If any of these were mandatory, so you had to complete them before you move in the process, there'd be a little red asterisk just like this, right? So we go through, and the ones that I have identified the decision maker. I haven't, if I have competitors at this level or stakeholders there at their organization, I can add additional stakeholders. Other out-of-the-box fields that you can collect on this lead exist down here. Did they come from a source campaign? Whatever the case may be, you start entering that here. Now, it's important to understand that these fields, these forms are completely configurable. Now, I say configurable instead of customizable. We look at customizable as needing to add code, programming, JavaScripting, those kinds of things. This is not that. We're talking about the ability to add, say, industry-specific fields. We need to know specific software packages that this company may be running if we're selling software or printers or whatever it is that we're trying to do, whether it's a widget-based process or whether it's a relationship-building type of sales process. We can capture that all right here. We can build those fields. We can build those data points, configurable. And change everything that's on this form to match what you need. Very easy, very simple to do. So I've qualified this process. I'm going to go ahead, or I've qualified this lead. I'm going to go ahead and click qualify. It's going to go through and set up all the various records in the background, and you'll notice that as we have qualified that, it shows qualified, and now we're in the develop stage, but you'll also notice that it switched over from being a lead. Now it's actually an opportunity in your system. So now there's more information. This is an opportunity record now. So now you're really into the actual selling process. You're not qualifying the lead anymore. So this is, as you would expect, same kinds of things. So what's the customer need? I can go ahead and put that in. What's my solution? Have I identified my stakeholders? Have I identified my competitors? It walks them through the process. Now, they don't have to go through the process. You can jump ahead if you choose to. We all get those bluebirds, right? That you get a phone call or an email and, wow, they're buying tomorrow. That's great, but it doesn't always work that way. So this is the sales process. And again, when we do the sales webinar, we'll dive deeper into this. But this is how we walk this through, right? So we've gone from the email that we got in Outlook to creating a lead directly from Outlook, to working the lead, to converting it, to qualifying it, You'll see that all of our activities kind of moved forward. Posts are an internal tracking process so that we can see from at a glance at what the activities and what's been happening here. So here's this, we created it, the opportunity, here's a lead record was qualified by Ken and blah, 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 blah. So we can go to some dashboards that are what are called the social activity dashboards and just see like a Twitter type feed view of all of the posts that are going on internally. You can, as a group, you can like them, you can reply to them, you can communicate and collaborate through these posts a little bit if you want to. But there's other ways to do that, and if we have time, I'm going to touch on it real quick. So this is the sales process, right? So we walked it through at the opportunity level. Now at the opportunity level, we may have, and I'm going to jump over here to quotes. We may get to a point where we need to generate a quote, right, for our opportunity, and we may have more than one quote. They may say, hey, I want to see this with this configuration, this quote. I want to see it here. I want to see it with using fixed bid. What if a fixed bid look like versus a time and materials bid? So I'm going to jump in here to one of these quotes. We don't have time for me to create a quote. It doesn't take long, but we're going to save some time by doing it this way. So this is a quote that's tied to an opportunity. So if you can see here on the left in the summary information, there's a name that's given to the quote, the customer, so it's tied directly to, we're not populating this. So as we generate this quote from the opportunity, many of these fields get populated for us automatically. Here's the opportunity name itself that it's tied to. If there's a product list, price list that you've tied it to, and you start populating your quote. You also then start bringing in the different lines on your quote, whether it's, in this case, you have products. So these are actually products within your product catalog, SKUs that if you're integrated with, say, operations, Dynamics 365 for operations, you're maintaining all of your products and your SKUs and service-based, inventory-based products inside of the financial package, inside of ERP, and those are being fed directly into Dynamics 365 sales so that you don't have sales guys creating all of these things on the fly, right? What a mess that would turn into eventually. You have the ability to use the product catalog, the item catalog that comes from your ERP. So we've entered product-based lines. You can see from here I can add an additional one if I want to, an existing product. I can look it up. I can say, hey, this is going to be a beverage dispenser compressor, and I can kind of start walking it through. It's there's a delivery date, there's a quantity, price. I'm going to actually change this quantity. So there's all kinds of different ways that we can walk through this and add additional things to it. I'm going to delete this for right now so it doesn't impact what we're doing. But you can see it's fairly easy, fairly straightforward to do. But once you're here, and this is going to now lead into just 2 seconds of project service, I actually can tie a project to the project-based lines. So in this case, I'm just going to open up this project real quick and show you what that looks like. We can start populating different information. We've got estimated hours. We've got actual hours. So once you've sold it and your implementation team is working through it, they're putting time against it. So you can manage their time within the project service or field service modules through resources. And it actually is going to give you that gross profit margin and give you those metrics at the end. Here's the sales pieces that might be involved, the team that you might be generating here. So you can all do this. You don't have to, but if you do use project service or field service, you can do this here and start adding these things in. I'm just going to jump over here real quickly to the work breakdown structure. And here we're going to be able to see, as you would expect, a template, and it's fetching the data from the server. So depending upon the connection, this may take a minute or two. We're not going to wait around. But it will pull up the project plan, the Gantt chart project plan that you've associated with this, and display it here for you and allow you to make some changes. So if you're working with a sales engineer, you're working with a resource manager or project manager, they're going to go ahead and grab that information for you and populate the data in your project so you can get an accurate breakdown of what's happening, right? So here we go. So you can just see here from the standard Gantt chart, and these dates are out of whack because this is an old project and some old demo data. But we can go in here and make changes, right? We can adjust these time periods. We can change the start dates. We can add hours. We can do all of the things that we need to do. We can download this into Microsoft Project if we choose to. We can upload a project template or a project from Microsoft Project if we choose to. Okay, so that's my 2 seconds on project service. This allows you to do some true cost-based reviews and looking at your sales from a little bit different angle. So instead of just saying, hey, you know, I think it's going to be this in a project-based sale, I think it's going to be 100 hours, let's go ahead and do that. We can actually break this down by role, by actual team that you're going to have do it. So if we look at the assigned roles, functional consultants, the resources that you need, this is a very deep and broad conversation, but you truly have in Dynamics 365 the ability end-to-end, from lead to opportunity to sale to quote to from quote to sale to implementation, order, and then of course pushing the financials over to operations. So you have plenty of information in there. You have plenty of process, and really we're running out of time. But if you were looking at field service, and again, there's another webinar on this. We can look at resource utilization. We can look at schedule board process. I'm going to just pull this up here and give you a quick look. But it provides you with all kinds of different ways to schedule people, to look at your resources that you've got, to look at work orders that are unscheduled, to look at projects perhaps that are unscheduled, to look at various the maps where these people may be integrating or may be working, how to drive them to the various places. The resource scheduling piece of this alone is very, very broad, but easy for your users to create a work order from a case and then schedule them out and get them in the field. So that's the last thing I want to touch on really quickly here is the service side. So we talked about accounts and contacts. We've talked about you know, a little bit of scheduling and selling and quoting and all of those pieces. Once you're working with your customers and you're dealing with a customer service side, whether it's a break fix repair or whether it's people just calling in for additional information, and you can see here through the case management side, through the customer service side, we have the ability to create all kinds of different cases. Some information has been required, compressor isn't working, shipment times are a problem, incorrect information. You can see here by the icons on the left, these came in through a phone or through an email or perhaps through a portal, right? So we're going to go ahead and just pop open one of these cases and just take a quick look at the customer service side of this. Again, other webinars that are going to be coming down the pipe that are going to give us an ability to, or time to dive deeply into this. But this is a case. You have a person or multiple people or a complete contact center, call center that is there for taking calls and bringing them in. You'll see that we have a business process flow across the top. It's not our sales process. In this case, it's a customer service process. We want to identify certain pieces and parts of the information. We want to research any of the issues, and then of course we want to get it resolved. But what you see here on the form, out of the box, we don't have any activities on this record necessarily, but you see some additional information that the system is going to populate for you automatically. Here's an area where, you know, we're here, we know who the customer is, the contact is. It's going to grab recent cases for that customer. Maybe this is a problem that was existing before. It's going to give your users, your agents, the ability to get information on their dashboard right away. And this is just one way of looking at this data. There's a unified service desk application that takes all of the case information and gives you a deeper dive into what's going on. Again, this is all configurable to your process and what your users need to see, not necessarily jamming them up with a bunch of information in a form that looks complex and they have problems finding the data perhaps that they need. As we go through here, of course, all the functions that you would expect in customer service, whether it's tied to a SLA service contract where they get X number of cases and you don't want to decrement it because this is an existing case or something like that. You have lots of functionality, very granular. And in, say, a field service world, maybe this case is something you want to convert it to a work order and get a person out in the field right away. And that process exists here, and it's very straightforward for them to follow and for you to then get the information about where your people are. Okay? So that's it. I want to respect your time. We've got about 6 minutes left. So this was, again, a 50,000-foot flyover of the capabilities and some of the modules inside of Dynamics 365. I'm going to open it up a little bit. Mark or Amir will be able to sort of see if there's any questions that you've entered. And then I'm going to pull up another slide here. There we go. That's a deep dive. So Mark or Amir, if you've got some questions that we can answer right now, or we can just wrap here, depending upon what we've got.
Thanks, Ken. Looking on my side, I see a question regarding the recording. Yes, the session will be recorded and sent out at the tail end of this webinar. So Michael and the rest of the team, you guys will be receiving that. Mark, do you have anything from your side?
Yes, we have quite a few. I don't think we have time to get to all of them, but this is an interesting one. It says, you guys are teaming up. What are your respective strengths as partners?
Okay, great. Thank you. Good question. One of the things that we believe strongly, and I know that Amir and his team at AX Mentor believe strongly in, is working within the channel to provide customers with the best experience. We are focused on what used to just be called Dynamics CRM, and now in Dynamics 365, we focus, the Dyn 365 Pros team focuses on the customer engagement side, which is Dynamics 365 for sales, all the typically CRM-ish functions, whereas the team at AX Mentor, they're experts on the operations side, the ERP, the finances, the development of all of that. So, we work, it's really a great relationship because there's clear delineation. We're pushing data over to operations. Operations data is moving into the customer engagement side. And, we're experts at what we do and they're experts at what they do.